Embracing your body feels good.
And it's good for you.
This is a podcast for parents to help you help your kids.
To embrace their bodies so they can be who they are in a world that tells them otherwise.
This is the Embrace Your Body podcast with Taran B.
And Dr. Z.
We acknowledge that we are recording this podcast on the traditional country of the Ghana people, and we pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. Zali, I am so excited about this episode because I am a little obsessed about all the amazing things our bodies can do. So I'm feeling the feelings and I'm excited because we've even got the science to back these feelings up.
Yeah, there's just really good research showing now that focusing on our body functionality can really improve our body image, and just worrying less about what our bodies look like because we're so focused on what they can do is just so helpful for us. But yet we sort of forget to do it. Like, even we sometimes forget to do it, I think, even though this is sort of the work that we do. So I think it's just a really good reminder for everyone.
Yeah, and I think probably what I like most about talking about the functionality of our body and how it can improve our body image and for our kids is that it's not a hard and fast, it's not a black and white. It's could we just strike a better balance than we have? Because I think as a society, we have put so much focus on our appearance, and there's all these people going, I'm disconnected, I'm depressed, I don't feel good, anxiety. I strongly believe, and I know that's more anecdotal in this conversation, but it has a lot to do with that we've just forgotten to feel in our bodies, and we've just become so worried about, I don't know, having a peachy ass or not having lines on our face, or
like,
it's a thing.
What is that? A peachy ass?
You know, like a what's a peachy ass? Have you not seen the peach emoji? That means bottom.
Oh, does it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm learning.
Yes. I mean, I'm an expert in this, but I think so.
Yeah,
or is it an apricot? No, it's a peach.
It's a peach. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it, but I didn't know that we were referring to bums.
Well, I think we are. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
okay.
but it's about balance.
Yes. Yes.
The first thing we do when we get off this podcast is look for a peachy emoji.
But I think, you know, the reason why this is so helpful for us is because, I mean, in researchery terms, it reduces self-objectification. And that's that idea of thinking of yourself as an object that's just there to be looked at instead of something that is doing, being, feeling, engaging in the whole world. And so, yeah, that's why I get excited. My T-shirt today is not an ornament. I do like Christmas ornaments, but not feeling like our bodies are ornaments. And, you know, the same thing could be not an object. Like, just this is all about just rethinking, you know, the purpose of our bodies is not to be looked at. It carries us around. It's our home. It's like where we do stuff.
Yeah.
And it does stuff for us without us even thinking about it.
It does so much. And I have to hold back because I'm going to unleash the beast.
Unleash it. So some of the really great research here, and we've talked about this in the book, is the book Embrace Kids, from researcher Jessica Oliva, who's in the Netherlands, and she developed a program that has all these writing exercises that really gets you back in touch with some of these aspects of our functionality that we've forgotten about. And so the idea behind the program is you sort of set a timer for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then you start writing in response to some of these prompts, and there's some of them on the Embrace Hub. But the idea is that by getting past the obvious stuff, your brain then has to dig a little deeper and really recognise why we think these things about ourselves that are great and why those things are important to us. And that's the really critical part. So those 5 categories are, first of all, your 5 senses. So thinking about the things that you can see, smell, hear, taste and touch, and why those things are important to you. Like being able to, I just love the smell of my kids' breath or their forehead in the morning.
Hey, what? Did you say breath?
Or maybe not their breath, like the forehead in general is very good in the morning. It's like that's important to me because that's like what connects you to them when you're having that morning snuggle. The second category is what your body can do physically, and this is what people sort of automatically associate in terms of functionality: running, jumping, climbing, walking, all of those things. The third one is the ways that your body can be creative and expressive. So that's dancing and art and even our body language and the way that we move around when we're talking. Fourth is the way our body can interact with others, and that's hugging and handshakes and holding hands and all of the things. And I know where your mind is going there. But all the things where we interact with others. I'm sure there's an emoji for that too.
I always think though when it comes to how we interact with others, I'm forever telling audiences, and it's a better visual. But if you are watching this, if you're not watching this, I'm waving, and I always say I have the world's most friendliest arms because well after I've said goodbye to somebody, bye, my arms are still waving.
Yeah.
World's friendliest arms, but they get to hug my kids, and I really value that because that's how we express our love to one another. So there was a time I'd like to hide my arms and never wear a sleeveless dress because, oh my gosh, that part of my arm.
Yeah.
But now I'm so grateful to have these arms because they do those things.
And the last thing, I guess, is all of the stuff that we often do forget about day to day. It's all the things our body does internally without us thinking about it. Like I think we try to control so many things and we think, like particularly with food, and we just think that we can control everything. But really your body is controlling like all of the things, releasing hormones, regulating your temperature, healing you when you're sick, digesting your food. It's doing all this stuff while you're just sitting there without us even knowing it.
Yeah, I was talking to my eldest son who I go to the gym with on occasion, and on my occasion, he's always there. But we were talking about, he was being a bit hard on his body, and I was reminding him gently, like, go easy. Do you know, have you thought about how much your body actually does for you? You're going to the gym, you're training for football, you're running, you're doing, like you're asking a lot of it.
Yeah.
So don't ever take it for granted and just be appreciative of all of those things. And I think that I see it on social media, or I see it out in the media, the amount of focus that's put on the physicality of our bodies. And we don't go, well, thanks, heart. Like I see people focus more on their bottoms. Get back to bottoms. How do we get here again? But the shape of their bum, something that they sit on. But what about what your heart does and how you breathe and how you digest? And I just think that they're really important things, Ali.
Yeah,
right?
I totally agree. But I mean, it's also that's your rationale for rest as well. And I think that we've had this moment kind of across the whole world where everyone's just had COVID or getting COVID or been, had it twice, 3 times, whatever. But it's that idea of like, think about what your body just did to fight off that virus, and then think about what your body's telling you afterwards in terms of resting and not going straight back into all of those running and jumping things.
Yeah, for sure. And I, over the years, the only way I can probably express this is I have journaled the shit out of all the reasons why I'm grateful for my body. And in particular, when I was struggling with my body image, it was really therapeutic to do that. And now it's just more sort of fun to do it. But I would get on such a roll for all the amazing things that our bodies can do because we forget, because we're in our lives and we're doing things and our to-do lists and work and kids and paying bills and all the things. And it's not often you go, I'm just going to stop and reflect on how grateful I am. But it is so powerful when we do. And even just taking a few minutes to write them down, it is really, really helpful. And by the time you finish writing down all the things that you're grateful for and all the amazing things your body can do, you're like, like, boom, come at me, world.
Yeah.
I am feeling really good.
Yeah. And I particularly like that exercise for parents where so much of what we do is about, doing stuff for our kids, but our bodies are what let us do that. And yet we're so hard on our bodies and the changes in our bodies across this time in our life. So this is something that's been really powerful in the things that we do with mothers and, in that postpartum stage, just think your body just grew a human, or in my case, like 2 humans at one time. Like that's pretty incredible. And then it fed them for like quite a while as well. So yeah, I think it's good for parents. And I think that we can do these little reframes. You don't have to sit down and journal for hours. You can if you want to. Just doing the little reframes, and we can be reminded of this when our kids, they come up to us, why is your belly so squishy? And, that gives us an opportunity, instead of saying, all the things that we could say in that moment, we can really think about responding in terms of functionality, in terms of, well, that it's, that helps me to cuddle you, and doesn't it feel nicer when we cuddle, and all of that sort of stuff. And I call that the Red Riding Hood approach to responding, because it just like, that's the visual I need to remind myself. But it's that all the better to see you with, my dear. Why are your legs, like this? And it's like, because then they're strong and that means I can run after you. So it's just reminding yourself to respond in terms of function.
And that reframe, this whole podcast is to help parents help their kids, but we know that we need to get everybody to role model that really positive behaviour. So I do really quickly just want to go here in terms of developing a positive body image for myself, the reframe on the parts of my body that I hated and gave such a hard time to, and would say things in front of my kids when they were young before I learned to embrace. That reframe was probably one of the most powerful things that got me on path. I gave the example of my arms, but my legs as an example, you know, full of cellulite and wobbly and stretch marks and all the things. That was one way. That was one lens in which I looked at them. And now I'm like, you wild legs, you strong legs. You've run 2 marathons. Incredible. The belly, you know, I used to be like a hot dog. It's more like a hamburger these days. You know, the bit down the bottom with, you know, the belly bit of skin and fat that sits there. I used to hate. That was like my most loathed part of my body. But now I look at it and put my hands on it, and this is where I grew my 3 babies. Like that, you are incredible. And breasts, that's the other one. Yeah. What happened?
Where did you go?
Where did they go?
Down.
And she's funny having a new partner in life, because I say to him after, because he didn't see my body change, but I say to him on occasion, listen, let me just tell you, 10 years ago, they were up here. He just looks at me like, why are you justifying your body? I'm like, I'm not. I'm just saying they were killer. And now they're still killer. They've fed all these thousands of meals to my kids, and of course they're going to change, and of course they don't look like they once looked like. And thanks, grateful for them. Finding the parts of our bodies that we don't love and finding all the reasons to love them is a really good place to start. And that language just comes out in front of our kids.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is so important to then stop saying some of the negative things, but start to replace it with the functionality. And I think if anything, after this episode, you just sort of come to that moment and then think function instead of, you know, the sort of usual ways that you would respond. I think that's moving towards where we want to be.
Am I okay, Dr. Zali Yeager, in justifying my boobs to my partner that they were like perky 10 years ago? Is that bad?
No, it's not bad. Do you want me to approve that? No.
Will this make the edit? Is this more of like a side?
No, but I think it's a really important point, is that what I see in so many women who are 30s, 40s, 50s, they don't want necessarily, you know, the body that they see in a magazine. They want the body that they had 10, 20 years ago and 10, 15 kilos ago. And so I think that's what we need. We need to stop comparing with ourselves as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's okay to say these things as long as there isn't that judgment and the despair behind it.
No, it's more jest and like joking. Like, how funny am I?
Yeah. So I think that's fine.
Okay,
you can have that.
If we had to hear this is a little bit of therapy work for Taryn here. Sorry, everybody.
I'm not a therapist.
Back to you. I know, but you've got a doctor in front of your name, so it makes me feel better.
Not the important doctor, just the doctor of philosophy. We talk about learning these things, practicing them ourselves, modelling them to our kids, responding with functionality in mind, but then also trying to be a little bit more obvious in terms of teaching this to our kids. And that's, you know, if they do say something negative about their body, then you can respond and prompt them in terms of functionality. So, you know, they're talking about how they don't like being short, then it's about pointing out how that's actually a strength and what does being your height allow you to do in the world that people who are very tall can't do, for example. What's the strength in that, and how can we value that as its own thing? You know, you can dodge people in soccer, whereas the tall person is like still trying to make it over there. And, you know, you love playing soccer because you love playing with your friends. So that's a really amazing thing about your body as opposed to, you know, someone else that's taller. Yeah, well, often that comes up because kids are comparing their bodies to other bodies that they see. We know that that's an obvious thing. It sort of starts at around the age of 9, is developmentally you have the capacity to compare what you can do, what your body looks like with other people. And so it's something that happens automatically, but then, you know, it's about getting them to reframe where they go with that.
And it might be a good reminder to your kids that your worth has nothing to do with your weight or your appearance, and all bodies are good bodies, and everyone's worthy of respect and love regardless of how they look. Just taking it away from it's about appearance. Yeah. It's about doing and feeling.
Yeah. Bringing back some of those key messages can be helpful then as well. So Taryn, you are known for a quote in this space, and you're wearing the T-shirt. that references that.
Again, very legit if I'm wearing the T-shirt.
Yes. So vehicle to my dreams. Can you tell me a little bit about how you came to this moment of realising the amazing things that your body could do and that your body is an instrument, not an ornament?
Well, when I got off stage, actually when I was on stage, when I trained my body to have that perfect bikini body and I did that competition and I don't even know who that person was and there's still shame around that because I'm like a part of the feminist in me died that day when I got up on stage. And I often tell people when I talk about that story, out of 900 people, I saw one person and it was my dad. I was like...
In the audience?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, damn you, Dad, for having silver fox hair. It was like a beacon. Your dad is here. Hi, Dad. And I was the ultimate ornament on a stage where everyone was looking at me and judging me. And people praised me for my thinness. And you would have thought that for someone who had struggled with their weight and appearance for so many years, that in that moment I would have reached my nirvana. And it just couldn't be further from the truth. I was moving my body to punish it. And I was eating with so many restrictions and rules. And for me, food is the most joyous thing on the planet ever. I love food. So I took myself off that metaphorical treadmill and I started to view my body not like it was an ornament, but it was a vehicle in life. And I started to eat foods to fuel my body and to feel good and to have energy. And I started to move my bodies in a way that felt very intuitive. And it was more about getting a hit for the endorphins and feeling in my body as opposed to how does my body look because I've exercised. Yeah. And that intuitive movement, I think, again, was one of the most freeing things to learn was because I didn't even know what intuitive movement was. And to get up on any given day and think to myself, how do I want to move my body today? Do I need to be gentle and do some yoga, or I still love lifting weights? I think it exercises the demons out of my body, and I am a grunter. So sometimes when I'm stressed, I'm like, give me some weights to lift, and it makes me feel better. But there are no rules. There's no hard and fast. And I think most importantly, life from being an ornament to then having this, treating my body as a vehicle, I would run up and get up mountains. I used to walk up. Let's pare this back. Yeah. I would run up mountains, but instead of getting to the top and looking at my watch to see if I was good, bad, or what my calories were lost and all the things, I'd see the view. And I think that probably encapsulates everything that is, am I an ornament or am I a vehicle? Yeah. Am I in my body or am I obsessing and berating my body?
Yeah. And so that comes back to sort of getting your own internal validation for things rather than sort of those external means of like, what was the time or what's my weight or what do the numbers say, what's the tracking look like, what do other people think? Yeah. It's coming back to like, no, how do I feel about that? And it's funny hearing you talk about running and doing all of the things because like my body doesn't do some of the things that it used to be able to do anymore, particularly after having kids. Like I say that it's broken. I probably shouldn't say that. I should be kinder to it.
Let me put on my Dr. Taryn Brumford hat here. Yes.
But, sometimes it does feel like it doesn't have the functionality that it had before. And I think that's where some people get a bit caught up with functionality. It's like it doesn't have to be functioning perfectly. In order to value the functionality that you have. And it can just be about like, well, my body has changed, that's great, and so I can do these things instead, and these things feel good now instead of doing those other things. So I think that's a really important point, particularly when people's functionality has changed.
I agree, and I think it almost feels like sometimes we need to spread the love across those 5 categories, that it might not be the functionality, the running, it's the creativity, or the cooking a meal and smelling, or all the other things.
Yeah, amazing. Wow, we've done well today. That's some good advice.
Well, we've declared that we're broken, and what else to say? See, we're all broken. We did tell you that with this podcast would be raw and real and that we're just walking right alongside you on this journey. But I tell you what, there's one thing for sure, and that is that when we treat our bodies not like it's an ornament but a vehicle in life, life is so much more fun and free and joyous and all the things.
For more information, get your hands on our book, Embrace Kids, and for free resources, visit theembracehub.com.